I have Chapel Roan, Good Luck Babe, stuck in my head, but I don't know the words, so I'm just...
The first part I know is You Could Kiss 100 Boys in Bars. All right, episode 9. We have our grasshoppers. Shall we take our first
I was going to say, I haven't tried it yet.
It tastes like an Andes candy.
It looks like... Oh, no. It looks like what it does in the show. I'm a little surprised. Like, I was prepared for that to be like a prop drink. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. You keep saying that, and I was like, I don't know what that means.
An Andes candy?
The, like, chocolate and mint. Okay. I don't eat candy.
I mean... I can't say neither do I, because I have been fiending for Skittles lately. It's pretty good.
Ooh.
It's not my favorite thing, but I get it.
Ooh.
So, for those of you who have also read the book, we were going to try to make a pink squirrel also, but the liquor store did not have creme de noyau.
I'm surprised it's the cream, isn't it? I was like, I'm surprised I like this so much. What about this is it's butter. It's butter and cream. I'm afraid this is awoken something.
Maybe we will get through the rest of that bottle of creme de menthe. All right, let's do it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm watching Palm Royale, Season 1, Episode 9.
Maxine makes a splash.
Well, she didn't.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Guess, yeah.
I mean, maybe in general. I don't know. We still got one to go.
Yeah.
I just like the show. It's still, there are times where I don't fully get what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it makes me question if I'm understanding what's happening. But like, seriously, 7 or 8 out of 10 times, I was right.
Yeah. It's just not the way I would do it.
And or it took a while to get to it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, okay. So then, yeah. Because I have been having a hard time with the character of Doug.
Yeah.
And then we find out stuff about him, and I'm like, but I think I was right. Like, I mean, obviously he's
mediocre.
He's sleazy.
Yeah.
He's kind of a jerk. And maybe it's Palm Royale, as he said, or Palm Beach, that brings it out in him. But the way that they deliver information is a little odd to me. But there's 2 things about it that I love and that I keep coming back to. Number 1 is absolutely Kristen Wiig. I think she has anchored this so beautifully and so perfectly with the right amount of, like, dizziness and battiness, but also plucky, like, and it's the place where I'm the most frustrated with the show is how does nobody else see her for the asset that she is?
Okay, that is what is actually driving me the most crazy, because even in this episode, we have, like, been through this now 9 times. Every single person in this episode was like, well, she's not my friend. And I'm like, she fucking is.
Maybe, well, that's the problem, though. If you would let her, like, if you would act like Evelyn, they would all be living in this house with her, throwing the beach ball.
That's the thing, because she keeps failing up. She is literally...
She's a mediocre white man.
Well, she is literally, like, marooned at sea on 1 piece of driftwood and then half a piece of driftwood.
So that was my 2.
Yeah. And then an astronaut falls out of the sky... basically on top of her, like in his little pod and everything. And so then he rescues her. He gets her, like, he's gonna come to the party, so she's got another draw. And because he's going, Richard Nixon wants to go because he wants to meet the astronaut. So it's like she can't stop failing upwards no matter what they throw at her, including being purposefully tipped into the ocean at night. And you're totally right. She's like, why are you not taking advantage of this apparently miraculous woman?
But to have Kristen Wiig pull it off is quite an accomplishment. But no, that is my second favorite thing is the production values, because again,
it's beautiful.
Those shots of her in the ocean, it couldn't be more perfectly my type because
it was very Barb Star.
It is identifiably a special effect.
Yeah.
But it's so pristine and so beautiful to look at.
Well, it's also very 60s.
Well, yeah, it's just, it's kind of a fantasy world. And I want to keep watching a show that a little bit functions like a 60s sitcom or a live action Looney Tune where a woman lost at sea can get rescued by an astronaut who then falls in love with her. And,
like immediately. Like, so
but, okay,
fast.
but not for nothing, he was right. He was like, have I not been reading your signals? No, yeah.
She just also, like, the relationship between Maxine and Douglas is so weird, but also interesting to me because
I like them. Am I wrong?
They do seem to love each other, but he has been having an affair, or he did have a one-night stand or something with Mitzi, which we're dealing with in this. And, like, here's the thing.
And that
I like Kaya Gerber, but, like, what the fuck is she doing on this show? Like, there's no really, at this point for her. She literally is just grapevining on stage and off stage.
That was
on stage and off stage. So funny. But like,
well, that's a moment where, I'm glad that there's a second season. I'm gonna watch the second season. I have high hopes already that a second season could potentially meld these elements together because there were like 3 separate incidents in this episode where I laughed out loud, and one of them was that kind of culmination scene where Maxine was rehearsing her dance, and like a bunch of things sort of like came to the surface, and you're right, Kaya Gerber is grapevining in the background. And you're like, she did a whole lap.
She did. She went backstage, back on stage, backstage, back on stage.
It was so funny, and it was such a perfect crescendo. Yeah. And similarly with Mary, Julia Duffy, I really had a hard time with her, and now she's such a funny, weird, welcome presence. I don't know.
Just like stealing that cat that's absolutely not worth $75,000 anymore, and then braining Linda with it because she's off the fucking deep end.
I'm with you with Linda. I liked her at first.
Well, it's Laura Dern, of course. Like, Laura Dern is always the right decision. But at this point, I'm like, would you just shut your fucking mouth and get out of here? Stop doing this goodbye tour, telling everyone you're going to an ashram, and just fucking do it. Do you want flowers for going to an ashram? Also, why are you going? Do you still feel guilty about your father? Because in that case, why are you telling Robert to let go of his guilt and like do whatever? And like, she's basically telling him be out and proud in 1969. Like, and I'm like, he just got arrested for soliciting.
No, I was like, let's be generous and say he's a 40-year-old. Let's say Robert is a 40-year-old gay Puerto Rican man who has a cabana house. Soldier who has finagled his way into having a cabana house in Palm Springs.
Palm Beach.
That is
such a cush deal.
And she's like, don't you want to be authentic? The Stonewall riots will change everything. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, Linda.
Girl. I literally can't. And also, I'm very, I like...
She's like this weird straight man in a show.
That's so zany. Like, she's not being zany. Even there was a moment in this episode where Virginia was zany, where Mary's driving down the street as they're getting raided by the Secret Service, and she's just like, no, don't come in. And that's the other thing, too, is like, Linda is... I feel like everyone keeps calling Maxine naive. And I don't necessarily think Maxine is naive. I don't even really think she's all that gullible. I think she just has a sunny disposition. Because the Stonewall comment, I was like, talk about fucking naive. Get out of here. And then she said something to Evelyn about how Douglas got to her first, so he's getting $2 million of daddy's money and you don't get shit. And I was like, why are you trusting Douglas, the man who basically left you at the altar, over your stepmom? None of Linda hangs together for me at this point. I'm not a fan. I weirdly, in this episode, didn't want them to get arrested because they are doing the right thing. They are trying to make fake Canadian passports for these men to, like, jump the border to not get drafted.
What actual threat is being arrested, though?
Well, you have to bail them out, and there's like 20 of them.
But sure, but I'm just saying, it's like, this is not the first time we've seen a character get arrested. In the next episode, they're like, well, that was tough.
Yeah.
Like, and again,
well, I think at this point, it's because now Mary is off the deep end, and if she's like alone on this island, and she wants to murder Richard Nixon. Like, I feel like maybe that's like part of it.
I just love how like 4 episodes ago we were like, you're not gonna take down Nixon.
Yeah.
And 4 episodes later we're like, maybe don't murder the president. I know that he probably has it coming.
He definitely has it coming, but I said that 4 episodes ago. I was like, you don't understand the actual socio-political ramifications of assassinating a world leader. That's insane. Like, I don't know.
But like what I was remarking on is how the show made that happen.
Yeah.
Where we were like, this plot does stop trying to make fetch happen. And I was like, oh, you okay? Sure. And so in that regard, because the show has gotten some criticism, and I think that's what I was touching on when I kept saying that when I watched it again and felt differently about it, is I think it's the kind of show that, and this kind of season that we're about to watch the next episode, and so we'll probably, because most people are waiting for that at this point now. Sorry, Kristen was sick.
I was sick, the dog was sick, the cat's been sick. It's been a rough couple of weeks. We do apologize for being late, but we're here now.
And expensive couple of weeks.
Yeah, very expensive. Yeah.
The show's been getting criticisms for being inconsistent, or frustrating, or like tonally, like the tone's not being married and stuff. And I think once we see what it all is and actually get it in its entirety, we might feel a little bit differently about it in a way that watching it week by week was maybe not completely fulfilling. I don't totally disagree with that, but also then we've got the other side of it, which is like still Dinah is in this thing with the old man, and he proposes. Well, now she's the new Mary for me now, where it's like she's the one that's like on the outskirts. Well, it doesn't make sense, because the other thing for me is what I don't understand now is that Axel was, I mean, I guess Norma kind of gave him the brush off, but he was like so invested in the thing with Norma last week, and then this week he's proposing to Dinah, and now Dinah is like... She found out he's a Democrat. She's found out he's a Democrat. But then now, because Evelyn had like sex with Eddie, and now it's like a whole thing, and like she wants Eddie out of the, condo that she bought for him and stuff. And I just like, it seems so weird. Like and obviously that's what this screen grab from the finale is about. They're obviously talking about that here. Because Evelyn is like, I kind of want you to just like be my in public boyfriend. Like, let's do it. And then she's also sort of blackmailed Maxine into like letting her back into the party and like paying for stuff for her. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Evelyn is still. But you're right though. Back to the criticisms. This is now yet another, like the 5th episode in a row where they split and come back together, and split and come back together, and so to me that is not narratively satisfying, because it in that way it becomes like a CW teen soap where it's like. Or like Glee, where it's like every 3rd episode, it's like a chain of events that makes sense, but the ones in between don't make any fucking sense because the same shit is happening over and over and over again. There's a couple things. The Robert and Douglas being arrested for the crime of buggery didn't amount to much, like, I guess. Like soliciting and like public indecency. It hasn't amounted to much yet. I guess it still could, but and Robert did confront the FBI guy, and it was another one of those tonal shifts where it was like, this is actually very real, sort of tender moment. But it was like, because it feels like the FBI. Regard, Robert was Linda-ing the FBI agent, where he was sort of like, how can you do that to your own people? Yeah, because I was like, the FBI guy is for sure gay. Yeah. And he was just sort of like, this is the life that I've been able to carve out for myself, and most of the days I like my job, and some days I don't. And again, I find that interesting, and I even think that could be a part of this show. I just don't know that it's... I said married earlier. I don't know that the parts are married properly. I agree. Can see the seams. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Overall, I'm still really enjoying it. Anne did survive. Yeah. It was Norma's insulin. Yeah. And we found out that Norma, her embolism was from her giving herself her own insulin shot, and there was an air bubble in it. And Robert was blaming himself, but they were like, you can't do that. And Norma is, I guess, a like mustache twirling villain. We got a little bit at the beginning when she first met Robert,
and then was like, I need some help around the house or whatever. And she's just also, like, I'm fine with the insults about Douglas, because she's like, I only have a useless nephew, and then she just was like, miserable wife. And I was like, I need to know what the actual problem is with Maxine. Is it just that she's tacky? Because in that case,
or is there something we don't know yet?
Such an outsized reaction to your family member having a tacky spouse. Like, I just can't.
But that's also one of the places where I'm like, am I looking too deep? Like, am I looking for something that's not there? Because technically, I mean, if she's the queen of Palm Beach, then yeah, I guess having a tacky wife is a crime worthy of death. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's just also one of those things where, like, what were we watching recently? It was Gilmore Girls. There's a character named Fran, and they're trying to get her to, like, sell them a property. And she's like, no. And they're like, well, what about, like, she's like, I just can't, like, picture it not in my family or whatever. And they're like, well, what about when you're dead? And she's like, oh, no, I won't be. And I'm like, Norma, you are so old. Like, it's gotta go somewhere. I guess the big cats or whatever. But, like, still, it seems so weird. You're not going to be queen when you're dead. You can't take this shit with you. Like, what are you doing? It's just very weird to me. I guess maybe I'm looking at it more logically than it deserves, but still, that's my deal at the moment.
I'm not sure what the deal is with astronaut Herkimer now at this point, if he's going to show up or not, because he kissed Maxine.
Yeah.
And she allowed it to happen, but she did not participate in it.
Kiss back. And he was really all over her mouth. Really a lot.
It was interesting. Yeah. Again, that's where that's where Kristen Wiig's performance is truly anchoring this. Like, yeah. I am that enamored of and invested in her that I'm still watching this in spite of the ups and downs. But there's probably a little bit more that we can say, but I think we're just going to go ahead and go right into the finale and see where that leads us.
Bye.